Hi. Today I'm going to explain an action, titillation craft movie called Ballerina. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie takes place in the John Wick universe, where we meet a little girl named Eve in a hospital. She's covered in blood and staring at a music box with a ballerina spinning inside. In a flashback, we see Eve peacefully living with her father, Javier, who teaches her ballet dancing. He praises her movements and mentions how much she looks like her sister, but Eve has no recollection of her. That night, Eve sits in her room watching her music box spin, while her father, whose body is covered in tattoos, is in the bathroom. Outside, several mysterious armed men slowly emerge from the water and begin making their way toward the house while taking out the guards one by one. Javier is soon alerted by their presence, so he fights back fiercely and throws a smoke grenade towards the attackers. He then urges his daughter to hide in her safe place and not come out, to which she agrees. Following this, Javier continues to fight the armed men, but even though he is highly skilled, there are too many opponents. He is eventually captured by them, after which the opponent's leader, known as the Chancellor, arrives. He accuses Javier of betraying them, even though they welcomed him into their family and allowed him to marry the daughter of their clan. He blames Javier for causing his wife's death, and it is revealed that they have come here to capture Eve. Next, the Chancellor hands Javier a gun with a single bullet and gives him a choice. He can take his own life to spare Eve, or he can kill the Chancellor, in which case both he and his daughter will die. After careful consideration, Javier decides to end his own life, but before he can pull the trigger, his daughter, who has been secretly watching everything, screams. This reveals her hiding place, so Javier immediately begins shooting at the enemies again while the Chancellor leaves. Javier manages to take down most of the attackers, but one of them pins him to the ground to finish him off. Upon seeing this, Eve grabs a dead man's gun and notices a strange mark on his hand. She doesn't waste any time in shooting the guy who's attacking her father and kills him. Next, the father and daughter escape together, but along the way, Javier is brutally shot. He then quickly throws a bomb behind him, and the explosion destroys the house while killing everyone inside. The two are finally safe, but Javier tragically succumbs to his injuries, leaving his daughter completely distraught. Later, we see a bloodied Eve in the hospital, staring at her music box. A man named Winston, who is the owner of the New York Continental Hotel, approaches her. He tells her that her father was a good man, who only wanted a normal life for her. While he cannot take away her pain, he assures her that he can bring her to Javier's family, who will look after her. Shortly after, Winston takes Eve to the Ruska Roma, an assassin society hidden behind the guise of a performance dance troupe. There, she meets the director, who asks if she knows how to dance, to which Eve affirms. The director then says they will guide her in channeling her rage, since those who killed her father have no right to steal her future. Afterward, Winston gives Eve a coin and promises that he'll always be there for her before leaving. I'll be there, just not now. The girl then meets an instructor named Nogi, who reveals that her father was also part of their group and was called Kikimora. Kikimora is a mythical spirit that represents darkness, but can also be a protector of the innocent, depending on the situation. Kinda like Batman or YouTubers who give money to homeless people. The scene then cuts to 12 years later, where we see Eve practicing ballet with such intensity that her feet begin bleeding. Later, her friend Tatiana urges her to take care of herself, but Eve refuses, as she can't wait to be a Kikimora. Alongside ballet, she diligently trains in other skills, such as mastering weapons, moving through the shadows, and fighting with precision. Despite losing several fights during those training sessions, Nogi encourages her to be tough and insists she fight with all her strength, even against men much larger than her. Over time, Eve gradually begins to improve and becomes the top student in Ruska Roma. One day, she discovers that her friend Tatiana has suddenly disappeared, so she approaches the director to ask about her. The director explains that her friend lacked the killer instinct that Eve possesses, so she had to leave. A determined Eve declares that she is ready to become a Kikimora, so the director decides to give her a test. Later, Eve is led into a room where she faces a woman who has been an assassin for 10 years. The test is simple. Assemble a weapon, load a single round, and shoot the other person dead. Both of them quickly get to work, but in the end, Eve proves faster than the other woman and shoots her with precise efficiency. That night, Eve notices John Wick, who has come to visit the director.
I'm thinking I'm back.
She then approaches him to ask if he is the legendary Baba Yaga. He confirms it, and a curious Eve asks how she can become like him, but John Wick feels bad for the young woman and urges her to abandon this path while she still has time.
Seriously, it's hell on your knees, and they won't let you quit even after you're dead.
Sometime later, Eve receives her first mission, to protect the daughter of a powerful man who fears she might be kidnapped for ransom. Armed with a gun loaded with rubber bullets, Eve soon arrives at a nightclub where she spots the woman she's meant to protect. The woman is dancing and enjoying herself when suddenly, a few men in suits begin advancing advancing toward her. Eve quickly realizes they are a threat and rushes to save her. Soon, a brutal fight erupts, and at first the men overwhelm Eve since they're in large numbers, but she channels her training, striking with lethal precision and taking them down one by one. Her eyes catch the leader trying to abduct the woman, so Eve lunges after him while snatching an ice axe on the way. She delivers a relentless onslaught with the ice axe until the man finally collapses dead and the woman is rescued. After this, Eve officially becomes a and receives a tattoo identical to her father's, which signifies there is no turning back. The scene then jumps 2 months ahead, showing Eve tending to her wounds in the bathroom after completing an assassination. She checks her phone and notices a large sum of money credited to her account for taking out the target. Her phone just says, like, way to kill that guy, here's $1 million. You'd think they'd be more secretive. Next, Eve leaves the building and drives off, but she's suddenly ambushed by a mysterious vehicle. She exits the car and eventually takes down the attacker after a tense shootout. However, when she inspects the dead body, she's shocked to see the same strange symbol she had seen on her father's killers. Later, Eve meets with the director and shows her the severed hand she had taken from the attacker. She then reveals that her father's murderer bore the same mark and demands to know what kind of group it is. She wants to take revenge, but the director warns her that those who wear that cross don't follow any rules or codes. They belong to an ancient sect, older than the Ruska Roma, and they are not people to be messed with. Unsatisfied with those stupid answers, Eve heads to the New York Continental Hotel to meet Winston. They chat briefly before Eve begins telling him about the men with the strange symbol who killed her father. Winston hesitates to respond, but Eve shows him the coin he had given her, reminding him of his promise to always be there for her. With no other choice, Winston finally reveals that these people belong to a cult that is a faceless network with no nation. No one knows where they operate, but one of their members, Daniel Pine, is currently staying at the Continental Hotel in Prague. Winston then makes a call and learns that Daniel has an active $2 million bounty on his head and is staying in room 315. He provides information to Eve, who thanks him for his help before heading off to Prague. In the next scene, Eve arrives at the Continental in Prague and books room 314. In the lobby, several assassins are gathered, and their leader is a woman named Lena. She contacts a sniper who is observing Daniel's room from a nearby building. The assassin spots Eve sneaking into Daniel's room and immediately informs Lena. Meanwhile, Eve enters the room to confront Daniel, but is stunned to find a little girl named Ella there. Ella asks Eve if she has come to kill her father, and while the man is momentarily distracted, Daniel arrives and points a gun at her. Eve quickly explains that she has only come seeking answers about her father's murderer and doesn't want to hurt anyone. Meanwhile, the sniper informs Lena that the two are just talking, so she immediately doubles the bounty on Daniel to $4 million. This draws the attention of several assassins who approach the room to eliminate him.
$2 million wasn't enough, but 4? Oh fuck. Let's get it, boys.
Daniel also learns about the bounty and scolds Eve for putting them in danger. He then reveals that the cult is after him to capture Ella, as he chose to raise her away from their influence. Just then, several assassins arrive, so Daniel and Eve confront them with exceptional skill. Daniel warns her that no one can leave the cult alive, so he promises to help her if she agrees to protect his daughter. Eve agrees, and they leave the hotel, only to be discovered by Lena and her people, who are revealed to be cult members. In the ensuing chaos, Daniel is seemingly killed by a man named Dex, and Eve is brutally beaten unconscious by Lena. After capturing Ella, Lena calls the Chancellor to update him on the situation, and mentions the mysterious woman who nearly ruined their plan. Elsewhere, Eve leaves the hotel and visits an arms dealer named Frank to purchase firearms. She begins questioning him about the cult members and their whereabouts, but he refuses to reveal anything out of fear. While they are talking, several cult members break into the store to kill Eve, plunging the place into chaos. Eve quickly grabs some grenades and uses them to blast the attackers while she runs away. After all the cultists are dead, Frank finally decides to help Eve and gives her the rumored location of the cult base, which is in the mountains. But he also warns that people who went there to find the base have never returned. Eve thanks him and makes her way there, but soon she gets a call from the director, who is mad because of her actions. She asks her to return right away, since she's putting the entire tribe in danger, but Eve doesn't care and hangs up. A while later, Eve arrives at the quiet town of Hallstatt, where she enters a cafe and notices the same music box with the ballerina, stirring a wave of nostalgia. She orders a coffee, but something feels off, as the place is unusually quiet, and people are also leaving the cafe. No one leaves after Ana de Armas arrives. Suddenly, a man bursts in and attempts to attack Eve, sparking a gunfight between them, while the waitress calls someone on the phone to ask for help. After eliminating her attacker, Eve rushes upstairs to hide, where she encounters the waitress, who is armed with a knife. Eve tries to assure her that she won't hurt her, but the waitress suddenly attempts to stab her. Eve easily disarms her and locks her up, but more and more people begin to arrive. It soon becomes clear that the entire village is filled with cult members. Even the 90-year-olds are assassins, but what do they put in the water in Finland? I don't know. The Chancellor makes an announcement and a siren blares, after which men, women, children, and even the elderly come out with weapons. Damn, I was just joking. Eve fights with all her might, but she is eventually exhausted exhausted and outnumbered, leading to her capture. Next, Lena arrives to see her, and upon inspecting the tattoo on Eve, she confirms that she is a member of the Ruska Roma. She knocks Eve out, while elsewhere we see the Chancellor talking to Ella, who is revealed to be his granddaughter. He explains how her father betrayed them and he was trying to take her, but an upset Ella tells the old man that she hates him. Afterward, Eve wakes up and finds herself in front of the Chancellor, who begins interrogating her. He explains that a peace pact once existed between their cult and the Ruska Roma, but she has now ruined everything. Eve clarifies that she acted on her own, but the Chancellor insists that it doesn't matter. It is also revealed that he was the one who placed a bounty on his son Daniel's head because he was trying to break the ancestral legacy by taking his daughter away. Enraged, Eve accuses him of killing her father, and the old man is stunned when he realizes that she is Javier's daughter. He then steps aside to speak privately with Lena and shockingly reveals that Eve is her sister. Before a stunned Lena can even react, Eve suddenly unleashes a barrage of gunfire and kills many men. When one of the cult members tries to shoot her, Lena shoots him instead, prompting her sister to make a run. However, Eve can't get very far before Lena catches up to her, and the two sisters engage in a fight. Eve holds her at gunpoint, during which Lena finally reveals their relationship, which shocks her sister. Lena explains that their father betrayed the cult by taking her away, and their mother had to pay the price for that, but Eve defends her dad, saying he was just trying to do the right thing and give her a normal life. Meanwhile, the Chancellor receives a report that the two sisters are talking instead of fighting, so he orders both of them to be killed. Several men then throw grenades at the sisters, leaving them severely injured. Eve crawls to Lena, who reveals that she was only 9 years old when they told her sister was dead. She shares how she missed her every single day and soon passes away, leaving Eve utterly distraught. They'll never even get to go on Maury for a DNA test. Soon, several men come after Eve to kill her, but she annihilates them mercilessly while being driven by the rage over her sister's death. She grabs one of their walkie-talkies and tells the Chancellor she won't stop until he's dead. The news rattles the old man, who immediately calls the director of the Ruska Roma and accuses her of breaking the ancestral peace pact. The director insists Eve acted alone and they did not send her, but the Chancellor doesn't care and vows that the entire tribe will face the consequences. Upon hearing this, the director promises to send someone to kill Eve, and they can bury the hatchet, to which the Chancellor agrees. She then asks for the location and decides to send the legendary John Wick for the mission.
Ballerina versus
Meanwhile, the Chancellor issues a public announcement that nobody must interfere and let the wolf hunt their prey. Sometime later, John Wick finally arrives in the village and comes face to face with Eve. He offers her a choice: come with him and live, or stay here and die. However, she refuses to back down as she's driven by her burning desire to avenge her father. She even lunges at John Wick. I guess she hasn't seen the first 4 movies. And seeing her fierce determination, he agrees to give her time until midnight. She has half an hour to complete her mission, after which he won't spare her, to which Eve agrees. Shortly after, the Chancellor gets news that John Wick had let the girl go and gets enraged. He then makes a public announcement and commands his entire population to hunt her down and kill her. Eve storms into the houses of assassins and takes them out one by one with ruthless precision. She finally reaches the town's armory, where its deadliest weapons are stored. At this moment, a massive wave of citizens begins flooding the streets to stop her. Now, Eve unleashes a brutal massacre, using anything she can find, such as firearms, explosives, ice skates, and flames, all to annihilate the attackers. At the same time, the Chancellor is advised by his men to retreat as the situation has become too dangerous, but he refuses, citing the fact that no leader in Hallstatt's 200-year history has ever abandoned their position. On the other hand, Eve wields a flamethrower and takes down a large number of attackers. Many fall, but she notices Dex, who is one of the cult's most dangerous assassins. He injures her severely and attacks with his own flamethrower, but Eve responds with a powerful jet spray that violently collides with his flames. It's basically just anime, but it's cool, I like it. The fight is brutal, and Eve is eventually cornered with no apparent escape. Just as Dex is about to finish her, John Wick appears out of nowhere and shoots the flamethrower, which explodes and kills Dex.
yeah.
Unfortunately, this reveals John Wick's location, and now people come after him, but they are no match for the legendary Baba Yaga, who effortlessly takes them out. Elsewhere, the Chancellor is trying to escape with his granddaughter when suddenly Eve appears and shoots at the car, causing it to crash. The Chancellor exits the car and tries to convince Eve that even if she kills him, nothing will change, as the other cult members will come after her. But she refuses to listen and delivers a single, precise shot that kills him instantly. In the aftermath, Eve reunites with Ella and walks away from the scene of destruction. John Wick, on the other hand, calls the director to report that the Chancellor is dead. Sometime later, Daniel is shown to be alive, and his daughter comes to visit him in the hospital. Meanwhile, Eve arrives at the Continental Hotel, where Winston warns that although she may have cut off the snake's head, the body will still hunt her. It turns out that she's banished from the Ruska Roma and secretly attends a theater to watch her friend Tatiana dance. happens. Moments later, a new contract is issued, and a $5 million bounty is placed on Eve's head. The movie comes to an end as she also receives the message and quickly leaves the building, implying that the threat is far from over.